Guys, how are you today?
Very well, thank you.
I feel like I used to cover music, so I know a little bit about the A&R scene. Do you think anyone's going to come away hating you after they see this film? Anyone in the industry, perhaps?
Oh, they already hate me. Funnily enough, no, not really. Something like the music industry that's so ego-driven. People are kind of more offended if they're not included in the abuse.
Right.
You know, so with the book, I got the reaction very much of people would be angry if they weren't name-checked in it. And, you know, we've met a lot of people who seem to reckon Stealth Fox is based on them in some way. You know? So you create the worst monster you think you can, and people are eager to claim ownership.
It's been, the music industry has been one of the biggest supporters of the film,
right.
Strangely.
Yeah.
I find it quite ironic, but it's been fantastic for us because it's meant that we've been able to get it this far and get all the great music that's in it. So it's been good for us, yeah.
Well, that was one of my questions. Certainly, is obviously music plays a huge role in a movie like this. So, how do you pick and choose? How do you decide what your angle is going to be there?
In a way, it was one of the things that I thought was exciting about doing it, making Kill Your Friends into a film, was the fact that making a great film about music, about the music industry, especially the British music industry, which is sort of it's our Hollywood in a way.
Right.
And I thought this book, because it had such an authentic tone of voice, was going to allow us to combine a great film, a great satire, humour and everything, but with all this music from this very sort of specific moment in the 90s where it sort of blew up for the British music industry, sort of Britpop, the Oasis, the Brothers, Prodigy, and these sorts of Radiohead, all these guys. So it was a perfect opportunity to sort of marry those two things together.
Another thing that I think worked really well in the movie is the made-up artists. You know, those three sort of invented acts, and it's difficult when you try and do fictional bands because if you're not careful and it goes a bit wrong, it's very easily like Rock Follies or like High School Musical sort of thing.
Right.
So it's false. But in the book, the made-up acts were surrounded by real acts from the period, so it meshes quite nicely. And I think we did very well in the movie with the three fictional artists. The songs are so well done, it merges very well with the music from the time.
Right. Yeah, it was really important that we ended up producing those other tracks that are just for the film. To the level that you would expect from a record label. So instead of it being so they were. I mean, I think one of them was done by a guy called TIFF. One of them, I don't know who was involved in it.
The Amanda one?
Amanda, yeah, exactly. Amanda
Ghost
was involved in the production of another. I think someone from the Scissor Sisters was involved with that, and they were all at various points were properly produced and developed, and we were very involved in sort of signing tracks off and getting them sort of as good as they could be, because it sort of felt I think it would have been let down if those tracks hadn't sort of. And in fact, no, and the Lasers, Frida Sodemo, who was the lead singer of the Lasers in the film, those tracks, when we were looking for an artist to play her, I was also looking at, I wanted a singer to play that part. I thought it'd be nice if we could sort of did the two, and so when we were looking for her, I was also looking at what albums they had out, what tracks we could possibly use of theirs and change into a 90-cent track. So again, that allowed us to create really authentic music.
You wanted a musician who could act a bit, rather than an actor who had to kind of fake being a musician.
Yeah, which always feels a bit false in a lot of films. Yeah, for sure.
And it meant that the Lasers music was great.
Right.
I mean, I would go out and buy a Lasers track. I thought it was there's a track when he goes to see them at an after party that I love as well. Yeah, exactly.
Can we swear in this?
Oh, sure.
The other one I'd buy, I love the Suck My Dick.
Yeah. Yes.
It's actually, which apparently Warners are putting out as a single.
Yeah. And that definitely sounded like the 90s to me. I could totally hear German, a house party, you know. Yeah. Then the other side of this is, of course, the cast. And I mean, for Nicholas Hoult, when you guys were picking him, I mean, obviously this is a bit darker than we've seen him do. So when you were figuring out how he fit here, what was that like? How did you go through that setup?
I think it was one of those. It was a sort of a wonderful moment of good fortune timing. I think for finding Nick, because as with probably most films, it took quite a while to get the film to a place where we could feel confident that we were going to be able to make it.
Right.
And as we were reaching that point, we were starting to look around for who could be our lead. Nick was shown the script. I think he'd actually been shown it a couple of years before by our producer, who'd sort of accosted him in a park and thrust it into his hands. So he's aware of it. He knew the book, and it just so happened that as we were starting to sort of put all the pieces of the finance together, the script was in good shape. That Nick became available and said he was interested. So
he'd also reached a sort of maturity as an
Right.
actor.
Yeah.
And maybe you forget a year or two in your life when you're in your early 20s is quite a long chunk of time.
Right.
Both in experience and in just sort of looks.
Right.
So my initial reaction when Nick was first mentioned was, I think he looks great, but I worried that he was slightly too young.
Right.
The character in the book's 26, I think Nick's 25 now, 24 when we did the movie. And it worked great in the end. And another great piece of casting was putting Craig Roberts, who you know from Submarine, next to Nick, because although those guys are about the same age,
Right.
because Nick's so much taller and Craig's got this sort of puppyish thing going on, you really bought that sort of pupil and master.
And he's got a. We were very struck very early on by his presence. So you're watching a monitor and you realise that you are always looking for him. And I think when you have that sort of presence, it sort of overcame the age thing in a possible way because he was the guy in the room that you're looking for. And I think that and also I mean when I first read the script, I was thinking for an audience, it might make more sense if this guy's in his 30s, because then you might understand his desperation.
Right.
But then John rightly pointed out that actually that they were, A&R guys at that time, they were in their mid-20s.
Yeah, we were.
And that's the amazing thing about it. These are young guys being given loads of money and being sort of fueled with, ambition and drugs and everything. And lo and behold, you create something.
On that, when I look back now, it's strange that often like in the movie there's marketing meetings and the oldest person in the room would have been the managing director, who'd probably been around 40. Everybody else was in their 20s and maybe early 30s, and so there's all these decisions being made with kind of really no responsible adult in the room at any point, and the youthful cast that we have, I think, really gets that across.
Absolutely, yeah. And so then the other side is passing through this certain mark in the film where essentially things change. And I mean, the second, I don't call it the second half, but once you get into that, it's certainly a lot darker, a lot, the tables kind of shift.
Yeah.
So how did you guys choose how to accomplish that and then actually carry it out?
It's fun. I mean, what I've ended up feeling about it is that I think that what you do in the first half is that you try and create a situation where the audience feels that they're allowed to laugh at certain things. So it's a little lighter, and then what happens, I think, is the film gets darker and he starts carrying out what he's doing.
Right.
What I've noticed is that you're actually wanting to find a moment to laugh. Because it's almost like you're holding your breath because it's sort of like it's like an onslaught.
Right.
And bizarrely, one of the bigger laughs we get is literally right at the end, where
Spoilers.
Yeah.
I think I know what you're going to say.
Basically, he's saying something right at the end whilst the police officer's doing something, and I think it becomes so hardcore, I suppose, that it makes you need at that point just to laugh. And it was a really interesting exercise in what you can get away with humour in a way for me, and you don't even know whether you have got away with it, but it does. But I think it's the only way to sort of try and pull it off, really, is to just keep on assaulting and never taking a backward step. And
In a similar way, I think that Phil with James McAvoy, when I saw that a couple of years ago, the first half hour of that's kind of a lot of fun and games, and then suddenly you realise as you're an hour or more in, it's getting darker and darker, which is kind of, it's, you want to you want to draw the audience into thinking this is a fun ride.
Right.
Suddenly, at some point, you think, "Man, this is really getting out of hand," which is kind of how the book works, you know.
Right.
It's nice that the movies mirrored that.
Absolutely. Well, thank you guys very much. Pleasure meeting you.
Thank you.
No, thank you.
Cheers.